Running a media business today, purely ad supported, is a huge challenge and a business I would not recommend anyone get into, even if you're well capitalized. If you want to do the strategy I'm talking about and the strategy that I'm executing, where you build a newsletter mostly to promote your own products or service as a growth engine to sell your own products or service, but then you use the ad revenue to supplement the growth of the newsletter, that is the way to go. And that's a smart strategy, I think.
Welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Wealth podcast. I'm your host, Andres Sanchez, and today we have Marketing Max. A bunch of our followers and viewers come from X, so I'm sure this is a familiar face for a lot of you. We're going to talk about how he sold a seven-figure agency, how he built a seven-figure newsletter after that, and the new service he's launching, Marketing Max, a done-for-you newsletter offering. For everybody listening and watching now, you know I have a newsletter. I've been focused a ton on it. So a bunch of these questions are coming straight from the brain, straight from where I'm at. And I know a lot of you all listening and watching are too. So I hope you all enjoy. And Max, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me on the show. I'm glad we're able to translate from Twitter DMs to live in-person.
That's always the best part. It's like we live in such and I bring this up on almost every show because it's applicable. We live in this amazing time in life where you are able to just connect with people. Like you're in LA, I'm in Miami, and we met online in similar spaces. And now here we are making content, talking virtually, and pushing a bunch of free information out to the masses. I look back like 10 years from now, and so much of the things that we'll talk about were gatekept. You had to pay to understand it, learn it. And now you can just go on YouTube and listen to conversations with masters like yourself and learn a ton. So this is really exciting for me.
I don't know about masters, but yeah, people who maybe are a few steps ahead of you.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd love to just start with a little bit of like your journey. How'd you jump into this world? You started with the ads agency, then we'll kind of go in and dive into the newsletter stuff.
Yeah, well, super long story short, I actually started my career on Wall Street. I worked for a couple different venture capital funds, private equity funds, a hedge fund. I graduated college with 6 internships, all in the finance kind of niche. And I ended up at an investment bank helping early stage companies raise capital. And I royally failed the Series 7 exam, which is the exam you need to take in order to be a licensed investment banker and help sell securities. And 2 weeks after I bombed the Series 7 exam, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I didn't really know what my career was going to look like at that point because I really wanted to make partner and work my way up at this very small investment bank that doesn't even exist anymore. Fun fact. But one of my clients that I was helping raise a $5 million Series A investment round for looked at me after one of our investor pitch meetings and said, I want you to run my Facebook ads. Now, this was 2016. I had no real experience running Facebook ads. I just bombed the Series 7 exam. I didn't really know what I was going to do next. I said, why do you want me to run your Facebook ads? And she said, well, she said, every agency I hire sucks. I feel like if you're really good at helping me come up with a pitch deck and run my financial models to help me raise $5 million from a couple different investors, her line was, you can help me raise revenue from a bunch of different customers. And I said, sure, I'll give it a shot. She gave me $2,000 in ad spend, which back then was a lot. We used to spend $2 or $3 on Facebook to get in front of 1,000 people. Now we spend upwards of 20, 30, sometimes even $50. So $2,000 back then was like spending $20,000. So in today's money, she gave me $20,000, $30,000 in ad spend. And then I turned her $2,000 in ad spend into $20,000 in collected revenue in just 2 weeks. Wow. And I was immediately hooked on Facebook ads. I went to Barnes & Noble on Fifth Avenue in New York City. For anyone that lives in New York, it's like this epic, huge Barnes & Noble. And I bought every single conversion rate optimization book and SEO book and marketing for dummies and digital marketing book I can possibly find. And I just studied like as much as I possibly could, signed up a couple of other clients at the investment bank, found similar successes with them on Facebook ads and also Google ads, and then ended up quitting my career on Wall Street, or as I say, hanging up my suit and tie and starting this agency with one of my friends from college. Spent the next 5 years building it up to more than 120 total clients, 15 full-time employees, 7 figures in revenue, obviously, and sold it 3 years ago, a little more than 3 years ago, to a private equity fund.
Amazing. And just for context for people listening that maybe aren't very familiar with the space, how different is the ads landscape now versus what it was? I know you alluded to it dollar wise, but even competition wise, how much harder has it gotten?
It's gotten so much harder. I mean, the real reason is the dollar, not necessarily the competition wise. There's 40 million different companies on planet Earth who are advertising. I'm sure there are more people who are advertising today on Meta ads than there were in 2016 and 2017. But the real issue, the real challenge is the cost to advertise. Facebook is a publicly traded company and they need to show an increase in revenue every 90 days. So they're going to consistently, slowly but surely, increase the average cost to advertise on their platform every day, if not every week, to justify that increase in quarterly revenue till the end of time. And so you've been in the game. I've been in the game since 2016, almost 10 years, and you kind of blink your eyes after 10 years, and you're like, whoa, 2K in ad spend in 2016 when I started is 20, if not 30 to $40,000 in today's ad spend. That's crazy, and that's actually like arguably the biggest reason why I sold my agency. It just got really, really, really hard to find success for startups. And most of our clients were startups spending, I'd say like 5 to 50K a month on ad spend. And we used to be able to generate a 3, 4, 5x return on ad spend. Clients would give us $10,000 and we would turn that into $50,000 in attributable revenue. Now that's just not really possible. Now you're lucky to break even on your first purchase if you're an e-commerce brand in running Facebook ads. You're lucky to break even, and then you have to worry about your LTV and focus on retention and how much people are going to come back and spend with you. So yeah, the landscape completely changed, and that's also why I find myself now 3 years later after selling my agency starting another agency. But now I'm doing it in the B2B space where the average order value per client is significantly higher. The average LTV is significantly higher. And so they're able to justify those spends. Not to say that anyone in e-com is not spending and shouldn't spend any money on Facebook and Google ads. It's how that Facebook makes all their money. They're $1 trillion company. They still do it. It's just way harder because you're not getting the profitability on that first purchase. You're trying to break even on that first purchase. Typically, of course, there are not analogies. There are not examples. There are exceptions to the rule.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's why I'm going all in on B2B this year, and particularly B2B newsletters, because it's just easier to justify the ROI when you sell a service that's $3,000 a month or $5,000 a month or something like that.
Yeah. And let's just jump right into it. Like, where did this interest in newsletters come from? Why did you go ahead and start one personally? I've got tons of questions, but let's start there.
Yeah. So after I sold my agency, I started creating content online as Marketing Max. Once I hit 10,000 followers on Twitter, I did what every other creator does, and I sold a course. I launched like a low ticket course. I think I started at like $297. And I thought, I have whatever, 10,000 followers, 1,000 people on my email list. Like, I'll launch a course and I'll make all this money. And my thought was, if I can sell like 200 to 300 courses at $297 a month, I'm making close to $1 million a year. Like, that's a pretty damn good deal. Well, I launched the course and it totally flopped, royally flopped, for a bunch of reasons that I won't get into here. We don't have time. But I went to one of my friends who was kind of mentoring me at the time. And I said, dude, you have a course. You're successful in your course, and it's around the same price point. Why didn't mine work? What would you recommend doing? And he looked at me exactly like this on a Zoom, and he said, don't launch a course, launch a newsletter. And I said, why? And he said, because with a newsletter, people are going to get value from you every single week when you send out a weekly newsletter. And then once they feel like they can trust you enough, then they'll buy your course in the bottom of the newsletter. You'll have it plugged in the bottom of your newsletter. Then you can also monetize your newsletter by selling them other things beyond just your course. And you can even get advertisers to pay you for it. So that afternoon, I went out and bought growthhacksweekly.com, the domain. It's just an idea that came to me because at the time, a lot of my most viral tweets were like growth hack of the week or growth hack number 72, growth hack number 65. And so my idea was I had like 20 or 30 of them. So I would just repurpose those growth hack number 72, growth hack number 420. I numbered them different things to make it seem like there were a lot. Yeah. I thought I would repurpose repurpose them into newsletters, just expand on it. This is before ChatGPT, where I could just take a tweet, punch it into ChatGPT, and then have it actually write the full newsletter for me. Not that I do that now, but this was before any of us knew the term ChatGPT. And so, yeah, I started sending out a weekly email, and I started promoting it. Very quickly, I hit 10,000 subscribers just because I was running some Facebook ads as well. I wanted to see what I could get my cost per subscriber down to. And I had a bunch of people starting to reach out once I had 10,000 subscribers saying, hey, I want to sponsor your newsletter. And this is before anyone knew the term Beehive. I built it on ConvertKit. So this is before the Beehive ad network. This was before everyone on Twitter was obsessed with their newsletter and everything else. And for a good 6 to 9 months, I had about 10 to 15,000 subscribers, and I was making $10,000 to $15,000 a month just on ad revenue alone. And then what happened was, I can keep going if you want. Tell me to shut up at any point. But then what happened was, I was sold out 6 months in advance. All of my ad spots on my weekly newsletter was sold out 6 months in advance. And I was like, I've been looking at what I want to do next after my acquisition. I started listening to podcasts from the founders of Morning Brew. I started listening to the podcasts from the founders of The Hustle, like Sam Parr, and even the founder of 1440, Tim, is an amazing entrepreneur. And I was like, this could be my next business. And so I found a writer to write a daily newsletter. I said there should be a daily marketing newsletter. I started out with Growth Daily. This is my sweatshirt today, Growth Daily. Started sending out Growth Daily. And then I started to have significantly more inventory for advertisers. So then we started making significantly more money selling ads. And the rest is history.
That's amazing. And for anybody listening that thinks it's not possible, I could tell you it is. I launched a newsletter from virtually nothing. I don't have 10,000 subscribers on socials. I don't have a huge marketing budget. And I am collecting cash every month for advertisers, and I am growing on a consistent basis. So I want to kind of put you on the spot here. And there's got to be hundreds of people listening and watching when this comes out, wondering how do I start a newsletter? What do I need to do? If you could give advice to a completely net new person right now, what would you tell them on how to launch that newsletter?
Yeah, I would say pick a email service provider tool. I recommend Beehive, Beehiiv. Cute spelling, amazingly powerful tool. I'm also an investor in Beehive. Just PSA, I think I legally have to disclaim that. But
Awesome.
Before I invested in Beehive, I use them every single day for my newsletter empire, as I like to call it, my mini empire. And so, I send out 3 newsletters through Beehive and have for a very long time. I switched over from ConvertKit because Beehive is significantly less expensive and their bells and whistles are just way better. They have an ad network built in. They have some growth tools built in. Their UI is super simple and easy to use. So step 1 is pick the ESP, start with Beehive. You can use ConvertKit if you want. You can use HubSpot if you're listening to this and you have a HubSpot account or something. You can use any tool. From there, pick a topic that your target audience, whoever you're selling your target product to, would look forward to reading every single week. And since I imagine a lot of people reading or listening to this episode are marketing agency owners or service providers in some way, shape, or form, right? You want to pick something that will get them coming back every week. So if you are a SEO agency, right, it's easy to send the SEO tip of the week or the SEO breakdown of the week or the SEO keyword research breakdown of the week, right? If you are a bookkeeper, it's easy to send a tax saving tip of the week, right? So you want to do that first and foremost. After you do that, then it's just a matter of calendar blocking 30 minutes every week or an hour every week to write the content. Use ChatGPT not to write the content at all, but use ChatGPT to brainstorm topic ideas with. What would be a good topic for this? What would be a good topic for that? Great, can you write me a good outline? And then use the outline that ChatGPT gives you to write that send. Then start sending it out. Now you have a newsletter. What next? We need to grow the list. So go on LinkedIn, go on Twitter, start posting, hey, download this free SEO keyword research tool by giving us your email. And by giving us your email on this landing page, we're going to also send you 1 free SEO keyword research tip every week or whatever it might be. So lead magnets, ads and other newsletters, partnerships, and social content. you already have the newsletter. Now it's just a matter of growing the list and continuing to send at the same time every week.
And is a newsletter something that's really expensive to launch? Is this something that anybody can jump in? Like, do you need a big advertisement budget to really grow it? What are some of those?
Yeah, I mean, launching a newsletter is free. It's just your time. I mean, if you want more bells and whistles on Beehive, if you want to grow your list, you can invest in both of those things, like a more uh, professional Beehive account. I'm on their enterprise program. And then you could also invest to grow the list. For most business owners, you don't need a list of 5,000 people, 10,000 people to make real money from it. If you want to start courting advertisers, you do. You need at least 10,000 people typically. There are exceptions to the rule, but you need typically at least 10,000 people subscribe to your newsletter and actively reading it in order to court advertisers and get them to pay you money to reach your audience. But if you're any business and you have 300 emails sitting in your Gmail that you've contacted over the years, and you have 50 emails in Calendly from calls you've taken, you can export all of those into Beehive, or export all of them out of Gmail and Calendly and import them into Beehive. And then you can start sending those people tips and tricks and value and insight and your perspective on industry trends and everything else that's happening in the world that's related to your product or service. And the reason to do that is because on average, someone needs to see or hear your brand, if you're in B2B, 11 times before they're even going to decide if they want to purchase from you or not. Most companies don't have 11 touch points built into their marketing strategy. If you have a newsletter built into your marketing strategy, now you have the 11 touch points built into your marketing strategy, right? So you don't need 10,000 subscribers like I did in order to start courting advertisers to stay top of mind with your best referral partners who are on your newsletter, your existing clients who are on your newsletter who can refer you out to other people, sales calls you've taken in the past that maybe weren't ready to buy but are today because they got your newsletter for the last 3 weeks and they're like, oh yeah, we do need this, and this is a solution that can solve our problems and everything else. So yeah, that's how I think about like the value of newsletters, and it's totally free to start. I mean, I even know some people who start like BCCing 50 people or BCCing 100 people in Gmail every week. Like, you could start that way. I don't recommend it, but you could.
Yeah, I actually wrote a newsletter like a week and a half ago, just encouraging, because our list is mainly founders, just encouraging them, like, if you're not doing anything with email, you're way behind. You should at a bare minimum have some type of email going, but like, you should start a newsletter and start reaching out to your ideal clients. And for people listening that need an example, myself, I had my newsletter for like 8 months. It grew slowly. Like, I'm at now 15,000 subscribers. So we got a lot bigger recently, but we were growing a couple hundred subscribers a month. And I fell, and I'm sure this is something I wanted to talk about because I'm sure it happens to you when you talk to people. I felt like I was too small to monetize. Like, oh, I'm too small. Like, I don't want to hit up advertisers. I don't want to reach out. And I was just limiting myself by thinking that. Then I decided, hey, I'm going to now start reaching out and trying to sell ads. And in November, I collected $75 in ads from the Beehive Ads Network. In December, I collected $250 in ads on the Beehive Ad Network. And now in January, I will collect $3,800 in ads. And I haven't grown exponentially bigger than before. I just started reaching out to advertisers. So like, when you're talking to some of these newer brands and trying to put together strategies on how to do it, what advice do you give to the people that have never reached out to a sponsor in their life?
Well, let's first make a big distinction. Of the 3,800 you're going to make this month, how much of that is going to come from Beehive versus you hitting up brands directly?
It's going to be all direct. I actually got all of them outside of Beehive.
Amazing. And how many subscribers do you have?
I have 15. Oh, we just crossed 16,000 subscribers today, actually.
16,000. Okay, yeah. So I think, look, I'm an investor in Beehive. I love it. Tyler's come on my podcast, Tyler, the founder. Like, it's amazing. But I do think Beehive tricks people, not intentionally at all, but like the rhetoric around making money from newsletters on Twitter really just makes it seem like Beehive makes it really easy to just get a couple thousand subscribers and monetize. Beehive brings you like a dozen plus advertising opportunities every single month. So long as you have a few thousand subscribers, depending on your niche, like they'll bring you a ton. The
Yeah.
problem is the CPCs are insanely low because they have to take out a
Mhm.
cut, and they're working with bigger companies who they're promising a lot to. And so
Yeah.
a lot of companies. That's why I asked you like what percent of the 3,800 are coming from Beehive versus direct, because it doesn't surprise me. You said the month one you made 75 from Beehive, month two you made 350. Like, I don't recommend companies get on Beehive, have 500 subscribers, and then run an ad brought to them by the Beehive ad network and make 75 bucks. It's not worth it. It's not worth it to make $200 from an ad. Like, it's great, $200, amazing. Maybe that's like a nice dinner out with your partner, but like you're damaging your audience more than you're helping them when you start out. And so I always recommend, like, don't take any advertising revenue, whether it's from Beehive or whether it's direct, until you hit around that 10,000 subscriber mark. And there's a lot of nuances to it. I have a whole coaching program I don't really promote anymore, but I do have a whole coaching program where I walk through like how to court advertisers, how to pitch them, really unique pricing methodologies no one else has used. Like, I kind of invented myself, that literally no one else is using, to squeeze as much revenue as you possibly can out of each ad spot. But what I tell people who are just getting started is, once you hit 10,000 subscribers, if people aren't coming to you asking to advertise, that's issue number one. You should have something in the footer of your newsletter, and sometimes even in the middle of your newsletter, saying, if you want to sponsor our newsletter, if you want to get in front of 15,000 of whoever's on Andreas's newsletter, right? Like, book a time here, punch in your Stripe card here, like whatever it might be. So number one is, like, if people aren't reaching out to you, then you have a real issue. Then from there, like I said, I've coached people in the past about what scripts to write, how to find the right advertisers, what to say, what pricing, and everything else. But like, if people aren't coming to you, you either have a content issue or a much, much, much bigger issue, because that's how everyone should start. It should happen organically.
Yeah, and that's how I guess it semi happened organically for me. I got my first ad through Paved, where they had reached out and they found my newsletter. They read a few of the articles, and it's funny. And hopefully, the Paved people don't hear this, but uh, Paved charges 30% fees, so like it's kind of hard to price the ad so it's a win-win for both parties. I overpriced the ad, not knowing a single thing. The performance was pretty low quality. So I honestly, this is a 100% real story. I felt bad that I charged them so much and that the performance was bad. So I found the guy that ran the ad for that company and reached out to him to apologize.
Mm.
And he came back to me and was like, hey, like, don't apologize. Like, yeah, the clicks were under what we expected, but your subscribers converted at a 56% conversion rate. That's amazing for us when we, like, from our side. So I was like, oh, cool. He's like, actually, let's jump on a call. Like, I want to buy another 5 off you. And then boom, that turned into my first like big, like real ad sale. And I was like, holy crap. And then from there, just kind of kicked it off like, all right, well, this worked. And then I reached out to 2 more advertisers and said, hey, I just did this for them. Are you interested? And then those 2 people booked. And now I'm literally in the process of the dominoes starting to fall, where I'm starting to get case studies. Like right now, I can't mention the name yet because it's not official, but after we jump off this call, I should close my biggest ad deal. It'll make up like 60% of that 3,800.
Congrats.
Will get closed. Yeah, thank you. It'll get closed after. And I don't know if this is something that you've noticed, but for me, like, I wrote the newsletter off the back of my podcast. I've interviewed over 100 people. I just love telling the story and sending it to other founders. My stats started going through the roof the second I started adding a like more personal section every newsletter, where like I talked about, like, because obviously it's a personal part is like me sharing my experience from the interview, but like I started sharing my own experiences in my business, my own experiences using tools, my own experiences growing the newsletter, and that exponentially grew, like, one, my trust, like my open rates, my click through rates, because I think people started to like realize like, hey, this person's genuinely like reaching out and trying to add value every week. So for you, when you're talking to some of these people, like, what are, and obviously like the tips are obviously find the niche, but when it comes to like writing the content and actually like putting out good quality content, what are some of the pillars that you tell people that they need to follow?
Well, I mean, number one is the tip, right? Like, that's easy to create. You need to provide value of some kind. I find that when most people write a personal story, it is way too long with nothing actionable or tangible that I can learn or take myself. And because we're sending emails to an email inbox that probably has 400 or 500 unread email opens or unread messages, if not, add a couple zeros to that,
Mm-hmm.
then what I tell people is start with the tip and then make that or the whatever like the meat is, growth hack of the week, SEO tip of the week, strategy of the week, whatever. Make that like 70% of the content, and then make the other 20 or 30% of the content like a little story about something that happened in your business or a piece of advice someone gave you recently that worked out really well or something of the sort. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. I haven't talked about my coaching program in a long time, but like in the coaching program, I do have like, here are 4 different pillars that you should always follow. I honestly forget 1 or 2 of them, but it just comes down to like what your main goal is, and who are you sending it from? Are you sending it from a company tone of voice? Are you sending it from something else? Like there's so many different ways to skin it. And I know I get on a lot of these podcasts and everyone's like, what's one piece of advice about how to write good content? It's like, listen to Gary Vee, document, don't create, just tell the story of what's working and what's not working in your business. Provide as much value as you possibly can. Give away more than you're comfortable giving away, right? Give away your secrets. That way people are like, oh my God, I don't have the time to implement that. I'm just going to go hire Andreas to do this for me. Like, give it away. People don't have time and energy to do 99.9% of what it is that you're going to do for them. And even if they do, they'll go ahead and implement it, and then they'll be like, wow, I'm so grateful to this person. And once you introduce another offer or another product or course or program or agency service or whatever, like you've built a lot of authority with them. So they'll want to consult with you. They'll want to buy your next thing. They'll introduce you to a potential investor. Like, you just provide as much value as you possibly can when you write these newsletters. That way, a bunch of doors that you don't even know are available to you will open up for you. That's what I've found, and that's how I kind of stumbled into like what I'm doing now. Is like, you don't know, all the different doors that the newsletter can open up for you, but it really, really, really can be this huge catalyst without needing to create 40 million pieces of content on LinkedIn and get a bunch of people to like it and retweet it and play the algorithm game. It's like so much easier to do than that.
Yeah, and honestly, your tweets were one of the reasons I started just saying F it. Like, I need to start trying to monetize this thing, because I would see your tweet every week. Collected X number of cash from advertisers, build your list. Collected X number of cash from advertisers, build your list. And I was like, man, I need to really start focusing on this. And now I'm starting to see the results. But I think it's a good time to like dive into you had said your kind of your number one offer is right now. Like, you're going in and trying to build B2B newsletters for people as like a pretty much done for you service, if I heard it correctly. I'd love to give you the chance to pitch that out, because there's hundreds of founders that are going to listen to this, and they might be interested in working with you and doing something like that.
Well, first of all, thank you. But yeah, I mean, I started tweeting out every Friday. Just like last week, we closed $45,000 in ad sales last week alone. Just closed $45,000 in ad sales this week. Build your list. So I
Yep.
try to do that every Friday around noon. I have a little like calendar block thing on my calendar to just look at QuickBooks and see how much how much did we sell
Yeah.
this week. But yeah, what happened that was really interesting for us is, earlier in 2024, I launched a program because a bunch of people would DM me. They would see these tweets and they would DM me like, how do I start a newsletter? How do I write good content? How do I find a good writer? How do I monetize? How do I scale? I don't really have a big budget, but I know I need to hit 10,000 subscribers before I can really start to make money from my newsletter. And I basically started taking consulting calls with everyone, $1,000 an hour, which is my normal hourly rate. And I would make a list of all of the questions that people would ask me. And it was always the same 9 questions. Like I just rattled off, like, how do I grow the list? How do I monetize it? How do I find advertisers? How do I pitch them? And so I basically spent like 2 weeks. I blocked off the calendar and recorded all the answers to all the questions with like very detailed slides and breakthroughs and screenshots and breakdowns and step-by-step guides about how to do all of this. Exactly how I find my writers, what to type in on LinkedIn, what should your job description look like, what should you look for most, like all of these different things. And I sold that to about 30-ish people with a Slack community and a weekly call. And then I realized after getting on the phone with like 200 or 300 companies, because I would just promote it in my newsletter. That's a big part that we haven't even talked about, is like selling your own products or services inside of your newsletter. That's the real reason to do it, right? But I started to promote it, and we got on the phone with 200 different founders, entrepreneurs who are all looking to start a newsletter, but nine out of 10 of them said, hey, I don't have the time to watch all these videos. I don't have the time to do it. I want you to just do it for me. And I said for a very long time, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to run another agency. It's just like I'm good. There's too many moving parts. And what happened was around Labor Day of 2024, like 4 or 5 of our most recurring advertisers came back and they actually asked us, hey, you're really good at converting the Marketing Max audience into leads and customers for our businesses. Can you help us build our own newsletter full of our target customers and then use your secret sauces and your strategies and everything else to convert subscribers of our newsletters that you'll help us build and write into customers? And at the time, I wasn't sure what I was going to do next. I had some projects that were like doing so, and I was maybe shiny object syndrome hardcore. So maybe the universe just kind of gave me something, if you believe in that kind of stuff. But I said, how much would you pay? And they gave a very fair number. And I said, sure. So I tried it with 2 out of the 4 or 5 companies that reached out to us the week after Labor Day. Literally just so funny that they all happened to be in the same week. The results were absolutely incredible. Both of them were marketing agencies, funny enough. And so essentially what we do is we run Facebook or LinkedIn ads to get people to sign up for our client's newsletter. Once they sign up for the newsletter, 2 things happen. Number one, they automatically get added to their ESP, their email service provider. In some cases, it's Beehive or HubSpot or wherever they're sending it from. But then number two, most importantly, we push them to a type form where we ask them questions that a normal newsletter would ask to better understand their audience, but we disguise sales questions in that type form. So if you're a marketing agency and you sell website design, let's just say, we might say, okay, what industry are you in? What's your revenue? On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you with your website? And if they say 7 or below, we can say, would you be interested in getting on a free call to learn how we can turn your website into your best salesperson and make it something that you're proud of? And if they say yes, we give them the option to book a call right then. Whether they book a call or not, they're still getting the weekly email that we write for you on your behalf, or we send a tip about how to optimize your newsletter, or sorry, your website every week. And then if they don't book a call, but they were qualified, we send an email automatically via Zapier and Typeform the moment they finish the Typeform to the sales team of this agency that can go and follow up. Hey, noticed you're not happy with your website. Here's a quick Loom video walking through 2 or 3 things I would do differently. If you want to get on a call to discuss, let me know. Right. And literally our very first client, 7 booked qualified calls in the first 10 days before we even sent out the first send. And now we're booking him 25 to 30 calls a month. And it's a brilliant strategy. Not that I'm brilliant because I came up with it, but it's just what I call good marketing in the sense that it surfaces the 2% of the market that's in the market to buy today. Because only 2% of your target audience is actually waking up every day going like, shit, I need to go find a solution to this problem and I'm ready to spend money on it. But then it nurtures the other 98% so that when they are ready, when they're finally ready to buy whatever it is that you're selling, they think of you first because you've punched them enough times, as Gary Vee would say, right? Jabbed them enough times with value. That way you can deliver the right hook and they show up to the call pre-sold. So at the end of the year, I think we had like 4 or 5 clients, maybe call it all in, maybe 6 if you include some clients we were doing some other stuff for. And at the beginning of the year, I just started promoting it in my newsletter. It's almost the end of January 2025, and we're at 17 clients. Fully paid. We signed 2 more today, but I never count them until they actually like pay. So we got 2 verbal yeses today. We'll be at 19 hopefully by end of day today or tomorrow. And this is what I'm going to scale up next. This is what I'm really excited to take significantly farther than what I did from my old agency, because B2B just doesn't know how to market. They don't know how to scale on the back of ads. And this strategy is so damn powerful. The newsletter is so valuable in building affinity and building a brand audience, or building affinity with your audience, that it just makes too much sense for people not to try and not to, give it a go with. So yeah, that's what I'm going all in on. Apologies if I went too detailed or too much into the weeds, but that's what I'm working on this year.
No, I mean, it's fantastic. And I think that's what the business owners and CEOs listening should be hearing. And something that's coming to my mind that I'm just curious, do you think newsletters will be the killer of cold email? Like, what the heck's the point of running a cold email campaign if you could just put them into a newsletter? And like you said, 2% might be available to purchase, but the other 98 that will eventually be part of that 2% now just get free value for infinite amount of time until it's their time to buy.
Yeah, it's funny you bring up cold email. I don't think newsletters will be the killer to cold email. Cold email will always be around, no matter what, like forever. But I do hope that more and more and more companies see that there's more value in investing in a newsletter than there is in cold email. And I'm not saying like don't do cold email. If you see any of my tweets, I do shit on cold email a lot. So apologies to anyone that runs a cold email agency. I use cold email. It's
Yeah.
not don't do that, do this. It's do both. But if you had to choose one is good marketing that nurtures the 98% of your audience so that when they already buy, they think of you. And the other is bad marketing. It's just, I keep trying to come up with a good analogy of it. Like people sometimes say shooting fish in a barrel. Like, no, it's the opposite of that. You're trying to catch all the fish in the ocean with a spear gun. It just doesn't work like that. Maybe that's the analogy I'll stick with from now on. But yeah, it just doesn't work like that. So I don't think it'll be the killer. No.
Yeah, and I'm in the same camp. I felt like I wanted to get your opinion on it, and I do agree. Like as somebody, I'm in sales. I still haven't left my full time job, and if you're in sales, you're banging the phones, you're smashing the emails. Like cold email is awesome. As a business owner outside of work, like the results I've gotten from building a newsletter versus the thousands of cold email campaigns I've run in my life, the results aren't even close. Like they're not even comparable when it comes to like the and like a perfect example again is this big sponsor I'm going to close is coming from somebody who's been reading my newsletter for 6 months, which if you've been on it for 6 months, you're an OG. They reached out to me last month and said, "Hey, love what you're writing. Like, can we jump on a call?" We got on a call. He said, "Hey, you wrote an email about complacency being the biggest killer of success. And I really needed that in that moment because my business wasn't really taking off. And that changed everything for me." And he's the intro that just got me this huge sponsor like 5 months later. So it's like that wouldn't have happened if he was part of some super scripted sequence that I'd been sending out for 6 months. And like, you can't run a cold email campaign for 6 months. You can provide value every single week for 6 months and keep growing it. So I think it's like not even comparable, like I said.
Agreed.
One thing that you mentioned, obviously we talk about monetizing the newsletter, booking sponsors, all that good stuff. But what about selling your own services? What about like pushing your own products on these newsletters? Some people want to just go the sponsor route, but I've seen way more, like you just make way more money if you start pushing your own stuff. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, I think it's not pick one or the other. I think it's do both. If all goes according to plan and the trend continues, we'll be at 20 clients by the end of this month, just on the back of my own newsletter itself. So, and using the funnel that I'm using for clients myself, like I run Facebook ads towards founders saying, sign up for my newsletter. When you sign up for my newsletter, I ask, how many leads do you get a month? And I have an option that says not applicable because I'm in e-com. And if they say, they get a certain amount of leads a month and they have over a certain revenue, I say, hey, would you be interested in getting on a free 30-minute call to learn, how we can help you generate a bunch more leads and nurture your other leads and everything else. So I don't think it's pick one or the other. I think I think the trend is going towards more newsletters introducing their own products and services and offerings, because what happened when I first started my newsletter, this was back in 2022, is that right? 2022, 3 years ago, like late 2022. When I first launched the newsletter, there were very few newsletters being chased by a lot of advertisers. There were just not a lot in the game. And I'm an investor in Beehive, like I've said multiple times. Like, the downside of Beehive is now there's 40 million different newsletters and everyone's recording podcasts literally about this. If you were to start a newsletter day one, I'm not making fun of you, but this is like the 15th podcast I've been on the last few months or 6 months where everyone's like, start a newsletter and you can make money and everything else. And it's like, now the pool of potential advertisers didn't get bigger, but the pool of newsletters that could work with those advertisers literally 10x, like probably more than 10x. I should look at the numbers here because I keep quoting it on all these podcasts, but like literally like more than 10x. So supply and demand went backwards, like real the other way around. And so, our biggest competitor, Growth Daily, has like one main competitor called Stacked Marketer. They were around before we launched by a long shot. They've been around many, many, many years. They're a European company, and they publish their revenue and their profit every year. And they just come out with their 2024 recap, and they lost $150,000 last year.
Wow.
Like, running a media business today, purely ad supported, is a huge challenge and a business I would not recommend anyone get into, even if you're well capitalized. If you want to do the strategy I'm talking about and the strategy that I'm executing, where you build a newsletter mostly to promote your own products or service as a growth engine to sell your own products or service, but then you use the ad revenue to supplement the growth of the newsletter, that is the way to go. And that's a smart strategy, I think. Can't say it's the smartest strategy on planet Earth, but I have a negative cost to acquire a customer because every single month, let's say on average, I'll spend $20,000 to grow my email list with Facebook ads. I'll get $20,000 in ad revenue back. Much more than that. Like I said, 40 something last week. But like, if I can spend 20K to grow my list full of potential customers for my new business, and I can make 20K in ad revenue, I just spent $0 net to add, if it's at $2 per sub, right? I'm adding 10,000 people a month to my list, right? I just added 10,000 people to my list, written in Marketing Max's tone of voice, where they're going to build brand affinity with me. They're going to get to know me. They're get to know what I like, what I talk about, the trends that I think, if I'm smarter, if I'm not, or they'll get to know me and hate me and unsubscribe, totally fine. But I just added 10,000 people who will build affinity with me over the next week, month, year, decade. And at some point, they'll see an ad saying, I can help you achieve XYZ, and they'll purchase my shit. So it literally cost me $0 to acquire these 20 clients that I've onboarded this month, or will onboard because we're at 17, but hopefully these two will pay. With checking my inbox over here. But, it cost me $0 to acquire them, like $0 cash out. Negative cost to acquire a customer in some months because I'm spending, let's say, 20K to grow my list, and I'm making 40K or 50K or 100K. So it's literally like I'm getting paid to acquire customers for my own service. I'm profitable on both the ad spend and on my own service. But it's significantly harder these days unless you have critical mass like a 1440 does or a Morning Brew, which you need to spend millions of dollars in ads to get to. It's nearly impossible these days to make real money from an ad-supported newsletter business.
So what do you think will give first? Do you think that the thousands of newsletters that have started in the recent years will just start to fizzle out when they're not successful? Or do you think more advertisers are going to get on the newsletter train and that bubble will become bigger?
I don't know, but I don't think the second one's going to happen anytime soon. I just think like companies are always going to go spend their money with Google and Meta and commercials because it's tried and true, and there's a real ROI, and there's not as much risk involved with it. That's just the nature of the game. I don't see a huge onslaught of advertisers coming into the mix. And if they do, it'll be through Beehive's ad network, and they'll be very, very, very low cost per click, where it's like doesn't really make sense for anyone to start these businesses.
You're not going to retire off your Beehive ad revenue.
No, God no.
All right. I mean, this has been awesome, and like I've taken a bunch away, and I've learned a bunch of stuff, and I'm sure the people listening have. And like you said, and I appreciate you for being very transparent. Like your service is growing a newsletter, and you're still being very transparent about like it's a dog world. Like it is not easy. It is not simple. There's not an influx of new advertisers coming in, pumping money. Like you've got to compete. You've got to do really well. And I think for a lot of people listening, like it is become very popular to make a Beehive account and tweet about it and tell people that you're creating a newsletter. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing a lot of these tips, sharing a lot of insight into what it looks like on your side of the business. And hopefully we can get some people that want to go and work with you. Some of the founders we have, because I couldn't tell you from a more personal standpoint, one, how fun it is to create a newsletter and run that business. Cause it's nice to be able to share your mind and stuff like that. But two, like, if you can find the advertisers, like there is good money in it. And if you could start slapping services on top of it, there's really good money in it. So, yeah. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, the question I always ask to wrap things up for us, and obviously you've had a a good run here. You've done a lot of really cool things. Is like, if you can go back and talk to the 18-year-old Max, like, what are you telling him?
If I can talk to the 18-year-old Max, I'm telling him do more faster.
Do more faster.
Do
I
more
like that.
faster.
I like that. And I had somebody share something somewhat similar to that. And so many people now, like, we have this just abundance of information online. It is so easy to fall into the trap of like, oh, I'm doing stuff. I'm like, I'm really doing stuff. But in reality, you're doing nothing. You've just learned a bunch, which is
Yeah.
fine. But like, actually getting shit done is so important.
Yeah. Do more stuff faster. Elon's question that he asks all of his employees, what did you do today? What did you do this week? Do
You better
more.
be able to answer it. You better be able to answer it.
Do more.
Awesome.
Do
Well,
more
Max,
before you have a wife. Do more before you have kids. Do more before you have a mortgage. 18-year-old Max. Do more faster.
I love it. Where can people go and find you? I know you're very active on a lot of platforms. What's the best place for people to reach out to you if they liked what they heard?
I'm the most active on Twitter at Marketing Max. You can find me there. If you want to learn more about what I'm currently up to, you can go to marketingmax.io. And that's pretty much it. I respond to DMs on Twitter very, very, very frequently, almost more than text from my wife. She knows sometimes to DM me on Twitter. So.
That's true. I got in touch with Max through Twitter, and he did answer. So that is not a false statement. Awesome. And we'll have all of Max's information linked in the description below. If you're interested in potentially looking in the service, we'll have his newsletter listed in the description below as well. You guys can just go sub and start getting fed some of that good marketing information. But like I said, Max, thanks so much for being here with us. Thanks so much for sharing. I know, like you said, I think I'm your fourth podcast of the day. So you've been grinding it out, but I appreciate all of the information and the time.
Thank you for having me. Look forward to seeing you on the internet.
Yes, sir. Thank you, everybody, for listening. That is the end of the podcast, and we will see you all on the next one.